Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our Way Forward workshop, Leader Lunch Break, and happy Cinco de Mayo to all of you. We're thrilled to have three very special guests with us today. Let me introduce them to you. First, Earl Pike. Earl has been a fixture and a change agent in Cleveland's civic community for many years. He was the face and the driver behind the AIDS Task Force of Greater Cleveland, did groundbreaking work and research for the Center for Reducing Health Disparities, mentored for the Civic Innovation Lab, and led our civic engagement efforts at the Cleveland Leadership Center. He has now found a true home and the fulfillment of all of his passions as Executive Director of University Settlement in Slavic Village. Despite his tireless work in that community, serving, feeding, hand-holding, listening, he still finds time to serve on numerous boards, and his commitment to our community has been recognized in numerous awards. When he most recently was named one of the 2020 Difference Makers by the Cleveland Jewish News, he said the following, which I think sums up everything. "I don't see the people we serve as the other. I see them as part of me. I feel like what I'm doing is not building a better community for other people, but building a better community because that's a community I'd want to live in." And he's doing just that with breaking ground on a $20 million investment for a home for University Settlement and homes for those they serve. And he's an alum of Leadership Cleveland. We also want to welcome Kanika Williams. Kanika is a proud resident of Slavic Village who brings passion and enthusiasm to her commitment to creating a more vibrant neighborhood. She is seen as the respected and trusted voice who will advocate for the community members who are unable to raise their own voices to express their needs. Despite her tireless work in her community, she still finds time to be actively involved in Albert Bushnell Elementary School, where she is making a difference for young scholars. And Scott Villani. Scott is the Chief Strategy Officer with the NRP Group. And for those who don't yet know what the NRP Group is, they were recently recognized as the third largest builder and the fifth largest developer in the United States. He oversees consumer marketing, corporate marketing, human resources, and of course, he drives the strategy of this groundbreaking organization. He previously had held roles at Forest City and RealPage and has always looked at making strategic investments and commitments to change lives and provide affordable housing through NRP Group. He serves on the board of University Settlement, and we look forward to learning how this partnership was consummated and understand how it will be transformative to Slavic Village. We want to learn how Broadway is rising. So I turn it over to the three of you.
Thank you, Marianne, and thank you, Rachel, and seriously, thank all of you. I'm looking at the pictures and seeing so many old friends and colleagues. So thank you for joining us for lunch today. I have written remarks, and I suspect that my partners do as well, just because we have so much content to get through. So for 96 years, University Settlement has been serving the people of Slavic Village with a wide range of senior, food and hunger, youth, employment, housing support, and other services. Except for a few brief months during the height of the Great Depression, literally, we've never closed. Even during this last year of COVID, we were at 95% capacity all year. And we did outreach with people like Kanika that reached 2,700 people over the course of the year. We're the main social service provider for this community. We serve about 12,000 of the 22,000 residents every year. So that's about 55% of the community unduplicated in an average year. I think most of you know that Slavic Village has had a pretty varied and complex history. Once home to 100,000 people, it will suffer the fate of many Rust Belt urban communities: population loss, disinvestment, the highways, job flight, and a host of other factors certainly took their toll, eventually leading to the Slavic Village that we have today, which is 22,000 people. All I have to do is tell my friends in urban development the population change from 100,000 to 22,000, and everything else about the community and its challenges makes sense. During the housing crisis of about 12 years ago, I think some of you heard this, we became the community with the highest percentage of foreclosures per census tract in the country, not Northeast Ohio, not the state, but the country. Tony Brancatelli, who was the council person at the time, told me that at one point there were 4 houses a day going under. But it's also, and I feel the moral obligation to remind folks of this, it's also a community full of rich and diverse people who help each other all the time, even amidst it being a deeply challenged community. So with all that, 3 years ago, University Settlement set out on a journey. We're in a building across the street from where I am now that's literally barely habitable, and we've long since outgrown our space. But most important, the building is shabby, run down, and to say that it's unattractive is a gross understatement. When you walk into the building, it feels like it's falling apart. Most importantly, the current building does not reflect the dignity of the lives of the people that we serve. So we recognized that we needed a new space and the community needed a new space to match their dreams and aspirations rather than the challenges that they've had in the past. So we began a process of reaching out, of deep listening. We conducted a feasibility study. We reached out to neighborhood partners, the Third Federal Foundation, Slavic Village Development, Boys and Girls Clubs, and others. I called my old friend David Keller at the NRP Group, who expressed a significant interest in development in this part, the northern end of Slavic Village. We began building up our board, getting the right staff in place, talking to funders. But most important, we shifted the organization and became a listening organization. We became an agency that constantly does outreach and community engagement as a regular part of our operations. I do it myself at least once a week, and we listen to the dreams of the community. Our motto from the beginning with this campaign was, nothing about us without us. All of this led to the Broadway Rising campaign, which is anchored in the 5115, which is the structure that's going up as we speak 2 blocks down the street. The 5115 is a $20 million mixed income, mixed use project, community, residential, commercial, nonprofit that's being built at the site of the old St. Michael's Hospital, which has significant environmental toxins. So one of the benefits of the project is that we're helping get rid of some of the environmental toxins in the community. University Settlement will have its new headquarters on the ground floor of this building, 20,000 square feet. And above that, there will be 3 floors of 1, 2, and 3 bedroom affordable housing and 2 rows of townhomes immediately behind the building, 3-bedroom townhomes. That, from the beginning, seemed like a really cool project to us. We love the idea of the project. But at that point, we took a serious step back and said, if all we do is create this beautiful project, but we don't think about the surrounding community, that essentially what we're doing is creating a gated community within a low resource neighborhood. The project had to be outward facing as much as inward facing. So we took a couple of really important steps at the beginning to add on to the project that became Broadway Rising, not just the 5115. Since lead is a serious issue in this community, as much as 30% of kids test poisoned for lead, which, as we know, is permanent cognitive impairment. Since lead is a serious issue in the community, we also made a commitment to abate the lead and asthma triggers from all 250 homes in the immediate vicinity of our project, thus creating a lead-safe community in North Broadway. We contracted with Mark Joseph, who is the founder of the National Center for Mixed Income Communities at CASE, to over a 3-year process to work with us to do deep engagement with the community, but also to make sure that we're leading every step of the project with racial equity in mind, that we're thinking about this project through the lens of racial equity. We have the opportunity to create one of the first market-based pantries in our building, which means that it'll feel more like a grocery store when you go in there, thus being much more dignified and respectful, and frankly, wasting less food because people are making their own choices. And then finally, just about a month ago, Tri-C made a decision to place their newest Tri-C Access Center right in our building, So the northeast corner of the building will have a full computer lab, and we'll be able to have college classes, evenings and weekends throughout the year. So where are we now? As I mentioned, construction began a couple of months ago. I see 3 elevator stacks over there when I ride by, and we estimate that we'll be complete. Well, construction will be completed by the end of 2022. The NRP Group will own and manage the apartments. University Settlement will own and manage the ground floor. The overall project is 20 million. University Settlement's part of that is 5.4 million. And we've already raised 4 million, or about 75% of our goal. There's always a lot more, of course. We could talk for quite some period of time about everything happening in North Broadway. And what's really important to convey is that it's not just a project, but it's a neighborhood transformation. One important point that I was thinking of right before this call is how many people connected with CLC are involved in this project. So there's David Heller, there's Aaron from this year's class, there's Chris Alvarado in Slavic Village Development, there's Kurt Caracol, who I just got his retirement notification about 20 minutes ago at the Third Federal Foundation. All these folks, Ethan Karp, Michelle Tamalo, Ira Kaplan, have all been helping with this project, and it shows the power of the network that CLC had. And had I more time, I would list our donors who have been just amazing at every step of the way. It's so significant that we launched this project with our main partner as NRP. And it's just been a real journey for both of us together and a real learning process for all of us. So much so now that David Heller, the CEO of the NRP Group, went out with me a couple of weeks ago to do outreach. The two of us just went door to door and talked to neighbors. And I know, Scott, that the C-suite team at NRP is going to do the same thing. So before I take any more time, let me turn it over to my good friend Scott, who's on our board as well, to sort of talk about the NRP role in all of this and how the partnership works. Scott?
Thank you, Earl, and thank you for giving us that background. And what I'd like to do is take a little time to talk about, why this partnership occurred and what, NRP and University Settlement. I have a unique opportunity to be on the board of University Settlement for going on 3 years and work for NRP. And, I'll brag about University Settlement for a minute and tell you that, the way I think about them is they are the Swiss Army knife of supportive service agencies. They transform and they move and they adapt to whatever comes at them because they come at it with a genuine care and love for the community and for the residents as part of it. That is the type of thing that NRP, over our 25 years of developing affordable housing, we've had the opportunity to engage with organizations like University Settlement. When we think about affordable housing, we look at it as we are trying to take people from poverty to self-sufficiency, and we are one ingredient of that. We have learned over the years that there are many other things we need to come together in order to provide those opportunities for our residents over and over and over. So going into it, we want to engage, when we're talking with our residents on a daily basis, we know they need help with after-school programs. We know there might be some continuing education. We know there just might be some community engagement that needs to happen. But our role, managing the apartment community, is maintaining that housing security as one ingredient of really the purpose and the reason we're there. And that's something we take great pride in. But we are not naive enough to think we can do it all. So having a partner like University Settlement directly in our building does two things. Number one, it benefits our residents. Obviously, it puts them closer in touch with services they may need. It puts them closer just by proximity to opportunities that University Settlement can provide. But what it also does is it cements University Settlement in Slavic Village for a longer period of time. As Earl said, one of the things we were challenged with at the board a few years ago was, what is next? How do we find a new home for University Settlement so that everyone that works there and that visits there can have pride in the opportunities they're creating? And having an opportunity to invest using the apartment homes as a catalyst and university settlement is really something we believe goes outward from us into the community. It's not, as Earl said, it's not insular, it's moving outwards. And that is really, an enormous responsibility and something, we stay with our communities as managers, for the entirety. We're managing communities for 15, 20 years today and continuing to evolve in those neighborhoods. We are, obviously specially incentivized in Cleveland, our hometown, right? As Earl said, David Heller is invested, we're invested as residents. And we are always, again, learning as we go, listening, as Earl said, to our residents and really adapting to what really faces us in the next challenge. So what I want to take the opportunity to do is to transition to Kanika and talk about, really, Earl and I have talked about this. This is the start, right, of a process. But when this community opens, we want it to spread, right? We want more engagement with the residents of Slavic Village. We want more investment to follow us into Slavic Village and to continue to build on the community we're hoping to really add, to supercharge it. So, Kanika is really, she is a conduit, right? She's going to tell us and going to help us. So what I'd like to do is hand it off to Kanika to give you a little more insight into that.
Hello.
Hey.
Thanks for inviting me. I just want to say I feel honored to be able to do this with you guys. I don't know if I have my camera on right here. However, I've been a resident of Slavic Village for about 5 years now. When I first came here, I didn't know any resources. I'm a single mother of 4 boys. So my part here is to just give you an idea of some of the challenges that the people in the people at Slavic Village share. I was the fly on the wall. I wanted to learn and to know about all the resources that could help me save, help me meet supportive help in the community. I found that in university settlement, and they're like family now. Earl, the staff, it's really not like having an executive director that sits high on the chair. He's in the community, he's shaking hands, he's like family, and all the staff at University Settlement is. Now, some of the challenges I know that the residents in Slavic Village meet are just simple. Broadway Rising is going to be a huge asset because you have residents in Slavic Village that have transportation challenges. They can't get downtown to turn in their recertification papers, or they need help when it comes time to filling out paperwork or faxing things or finding a notary. Just small things like that that can be an issue. And sometimes we all think that we have it together, but we don't. Now, I had looked into the history of Slavic Village, and it would be great to see things like 80 lanes come back, where your family can come and enjoy a bowling experience. Coming into the 5115 Broadway Rising building, having a cup of coffee, meeting with some of the staff, having an opportunity to live in one of those apartments or townhouses that they're building. This new building for Slavic Village is going to be huge. Like Earl said, people don't like the old building. They don't want to come in. They don't feel like it's inviting. But I guarantee when this new building opens up, there's going to be a plethora of people coming in just to be curious to see what type of resources that are available. And they're going to be surprised to know that it's the same old resources, just a new inventive way of supplying them to the community. An important topic I wanted to meet was the challenges that, I experienced coming here was being that single mom, having to, reach out for a food bank, and having to say, hey, where's the supportive services here? And like I said, I found that in university settlement. Not only building strong families, now with Broadway Rising, they're going to build a strong community too. People are going to be seeing this and they're going to say, hey, you know what? We need to, look at this community for what it is. It's coming back around. They have a huge amount of potential right here. It really is a village where you can raise children at, despite of some of our challenges with the residents that live here. And we have to overlook that and meet them where they're at. I know that I can be long-winded. I just wanted to just, tell you about my commitment. My commitment to Slavic Village, being a resident here, is to try to get some of these parks open back up so children can play. Be very attentive in the school my children go in, which is a new facility, just like Broadway Rising is going to be. Leaving the old habits back and coming into the new habits of the future, and the potential and the investors and everybody who's going to be trying to come into Slavic Village, just inviting the residents and hoping that the residents that live here are going to be unfearful enough to say, let me go and see what's going on. Let me go in this building and receive the help they have. So like Scott and Earl said, I have met some of my challenges, and when I need help, I reach out to University Settlement. I'm definitely going to be going to that new building to do small tasks. And every time University Settlement calls me, they're offering job positions to people in the residence, grassroots. So it's not about being on top and sitting there and just looking down. These people are actually going out, shaking hands with strangers, people they don't even know in the community, giving them that invitation, giving them that open arm experience, saying, come, let us help you. We just have to find a way. And Broadway Rising is going to be a spot on the canvas that is going to be very bright in the next coming up, year or so. And I think that it's awesome. It's going to be a huge asset to this community. And I hope to see more coming. Maybe you guys can get a Publix here too. That'd be great. But I just thank you so much, Earl, because it's great. And I want to be a part of any kind of community outreach that you guys have going on. I want to ask questions. I want to, see what the community has to say. If they're afraid to say it, I will definitely be the voice of the community. So I'm not going to take up any more time. And Broadway Rising is going to be an absolute complete joy to this community, and I can't wait to see it finish.
Thank you, Kanika.
Welcome.
Can I just make one more comment? You inspired one more comment. Like, one of the questions that I'm asked, I know there's some other questions, but one of the questions I get asked often is, how do we measure the success of this kind of project? And, we know that we're going to do this $20 million project. We're talking about a phase 2 that could be another 30 million. We know that, we'll build a certain number of housing units and so on and so on. All of that is sort of like 30,000 foot view. I first visited the main building that Kanika talked about 12 years ago when a friend of mine was running the place. And I remember stepping across the threshold and thinking, if I were a consumer, what would this place tell me about who I am? I mean, we know that architecture tells you where you are and what's happening, but it also tells you who you are as a human being. And our main building really tells people, you've reached the end of the line. There's not much hope for you. It's tattered. It's got critters and all. I don't want to go into all the details, but it doesn't tell people that we respect them in the way that we do. To me, the number one metric for the new building will be watching community people step across the threshold for the first time and seeing a new narrative for their future based on a new space. So it's not just about building a new building, it's about beginning to rewrite the story of North Broadway. That's the real sort of goal. Yeah.
Well, thank you all so much for sharing such fantastic information. We've got a bunch of questions that I'd like to get to. So let's start. So first question we have is, will the entire first floor of Broadway Rising be occupied for University Settlement, or will there be a space for community partners to come in and provide wraparound services? Love
that question. So our first community partner, of course, is Tri-C. They're going to be one of the partners. There is one small corner that NRP will be using for their leasing office, but the entire rest of the ground floor is owned and managed by University Settlement. We're already out of space, actually, which is a good problem to have. So we're beginning to think about that for phase 2, whether we can create more commercial opportunities in addition to the residential opportunities. But yeah, that's to what Kanika said and to what Scott talked about. This is about creating a sense of community, not just a project where people can live.
So, and what's going to happen to the current space older building? Are there redevelopment plans for the land that it sits on?
Well, I will give it to anybody who will pay me $750,000 or more. We don't actually know. We've got a committee working on that. Our concern is, of course, that if we leave it without a plan, that it could create all kinds of problems. So we haven't solved that question yet. But we're part of the reason we're taking our time on it is that we want it to be the right kind of use. We don't want it to just sell it to somebody.
If I can say something, Earl, I think
go ahead.
I think it would be a great idea to make it out of a small marketplace that people can come and use their food stamps and EBT and things like that.
I've thought about that.
Great. You have a great idea. So
this needs to be a community planning process. It's not just my idea or Scott's idea. Yeah.
So Kanika, our next question is for you. What sorts of conversations are taking place in the community about the new building and this opportunity? Do you have a pulse on other community members' thoughts on the development?
Not to be negative, but let me just give you an idea of how some people think, and then we all have to look at the different cultural lives that we're coming from, right? So I hear a lot of people say, "Oh, it's just going to be a new gentrification. They're going to be running us out of the neighborhood and doing this." Okay, well, you know what? We can solve this problem by saying, instead of you thinking you're getting ran out of this neighborhood, why don't you come to this building and receive the resources? How about you try to use some of the resources there? They have all kinds of excuses. And I think a lot of times it's fear that holds back our residents in Slavic Village from even coming to use some of the resources at the old building. They think that you have to have a major issue. Like Earl said, they think when you cross that threshold that you're just at the bottom of the bottom. Well, you know what? Come in and let University Settlement raise you up out of the bottom. Seek the help, seek building strong families, seek the, why don't you try to go to the taste and see and engage with some of the people who are involved in the, the committees and the community that's trying to help. And a lot of times too, I think this is going to be great. Like Earl say, they're asking about the waiting list. I definitely was. So you have a lot of mixed emotions. And I think by Earl himself being out there in that community, walking around the block, people seeing him, he's just not like that executive director who's just on top of the ladder, just looking down. He like really out there connecting with people. They know him. And to have that in your village is really substantial. So it's and like myself, every time they call me, and if you show interest, they say, hey, I know somebody who's in a resident who really wants to help us. Call Kay. I'm there. They're putting out job invitations. They're helping you find amnesty with your legal problems. It's so much that University Settlement is trying to do to reach out to the community. And it is like pulling teeth. But I think that with just a little more perseverance and patience, I think they're going to come around. And when they see this beautiful new building, I'm definitely going to be there. And I'm definitely going to be shouting out, hey, did you go to the new building yet? I'm the SPO president at my school. So I do interact with a lot of the parents and students. And some of them do reach out for help, but they're scared to go to, the faculty, or they're scared to talk to people who are in leadership. So I'm one of those happy mediums that say, hey, come talk to me. Let me see if I can help you. Let me see if I can reach out to some resources, and that you might not have to put your personal business all the way out there. So like I said, it's just, it's two parts to it. Mm-hmm. Those that are happy and those who look at it and have been here for a long time, just set in their ways, that's got to be, fed a different kind of dog food, is how I would put it.
All right, Scott, we've had a couple questions come in for you around NRP and plans for other similar projects in the Cleveland or surrounding area for other neighborhoods.
Absolutely. So, this type of partnership has become, what we target in affordable housing is we know we can make the most impact if we're partnering with these anchor institutions in neighborhoods. So we have two others in Cleveland on the way already. One is a partnership with Metro Health, and the other is a partnership with university hospitals. And that's part of our hospitals and housing initiative, which is, again, inspired by previous engagements, with Slavic Village, and really Aaron Pakoda, our developer, had been in a partnership in Columbus for years with Community Development for All People, who is an agency working in Columbus, really, again, similar to University Settlement. I'd say they're long lost friends, and they really supercharge the community. So we have two on the way with hospitals and housing, really addressing social determinants of health and trying to, again, create that neighborhood point of access for everyone in the neighborhood, and not make it inward, make it outward. We also have, as Earl stated earlier, we have room for a potential second phase in Slavic Village itself. And, we'll be continually listening and talking with neighborhood stakeholders to understand what that next phase wants to be. Do we want it to be for seniors? Do we want it to have additional space for, pets, for after school programming? What would be next, right? And what's next? What will University Settlement need next to serve the neighborhood? Those are the types of things that, we're constantly looking at.
Yeah.
So can you speak to the interest potentially being generated within the neighborhood for ancillary development as a result of this project?
I would say I would have to defer to Chris Alvarado and Slavic Village Development, but we know that typically starts after we open our doors, and we get there and we start to really, we create that foot traffic. We have people, seeing, what we're able to achieve in the neighborhood. And again, the idea is, as Kanika sort of said, we don't want it to feel like gentrification. We want people to move in to our community. And this community has a range of incomes within it. So we have 30% area median income and 60% area median income, which provides opportunities for people to grow and still maintain their housing. And then from there, they can hopefully buy a home in the community and stay, and then make space for the next person who needs this service. And, whether it's a senior or a family who can take advantage of that and continue to grow within the neighborhood.
I think one thing I think about a lot is that there's countless examples of great projects in Cleveland, great apartment complexes and great developments. And there really are some amazing projects going on. We are deliberately thinking about this as building a community. So one of the things that we did was we commissioned some economists from CASE to do an economic analysis for us about the potential impact of the work that we're going to do over the next 10 years. And they're estimating somewhere between 50 and 75 million worth of combined economic impact on the community. And to put that in perspective, that's by far one of the most significant investments in Slavic Village and certainly North Broadway since World War II. So it's a game-changing investment. But the work of implementing it, as Kanika mentioned, the groundwork, the day-to-day work, that's going to be the next 50 years. And we're committed. We're going to be here. We'll do that work.
Each of you have mentioned having to build relationships and partnerships and collaboration to really make this project successful. So as you've worked through that, what have you learned that through those collaborations, what's worked? What's a best practice for those of us who are looking to collaborate and partner with others?
Scott, do you want to take a shot at that, and then I have some thoughts?
Yeah, we're David Heller would tell you we're always learning, and we are lifetime learners and have to listen to our partners. I would say one thing that we've learned over the years is we need to be patient and we need to spend time educating our partners on the different aspects of a real estate development project that they're now a part of, right? And really, it's not always smooth. I mean, Earl and I have had a lot of conversations where, we missed a step in communication and we fell out of sync. And that's always something that's present.
And Sheridan.
So, I would say, it's about really informing your partnership, being open to a push-pull within that partnership, and learning about each other along the way, and being willing to step back and, know that everyone's intentions are good, and find a way forward when things are challenged. And we experience that, in every month probably.
Well, so when I've been here 3 years and a couple months. When I first started here, I realized that I didn't know the community as much as I should. I live in Cleveland Heights. So I spent a year just doing kind of silly things, I guess. I went to a different church service every Sunday for almost 9 months. I hung out in bars. I went to stores. I talked to storekeepers and so on. So, but mainly, and I'm so proud of Kanika and all the work that you've done. I listen to community residents, and I just think, and sort of building that into the DNA of the organization, even when people are telling us stuff that we don't want to hear, we need to keep listening. The other sort of lesson, I guess, if there's a lesson, is to figure out space at the table for everybody. And I mean everybody. I mean the people I disagree with. I mean the people who complained because we put up a Black Lives Matter sign in our building. I mean everybody, because that's community, right? And that's part of why it takes longer, because you listen to all those conversations, but there has to be room at the table for everybody, or it's not a table. It's not a gathering.
If I can just say something, one important thing that I think that is going to make a big difference too is just I had a very great chance to meet executive director by the name of Tim Grady at Boys Hope, which is located right. My son was nominated for Boys Hope, so I was there last night. Great facility, great. Now, with the parents in Slavic Village too, they're looking for more things that the children can do. If you got something that draws these parents, because there are opportunities for the children, it's going to be huge. I love the Easter festivals. I love the Christmas walks on Fleet. Everything about that's happening on Fleet right now, Saucias, the pet walk, everything, the gardens, is so unique. And I think that that's going to be like one of the main invitations to get some of our community residents to say, hey, you know what, they got a lot of stuff going on for my child. Let me go and see what's going on. So that's something to keep in mind too, as far as everybody. Remember, you're investing in the future. So our future are the children in the neighborhood. And that's why I do the things I do, because everything I do is because of my children, because I want to stay in Slavic Village, but I want them to also grow up in Slavic Village in a safe, in a kind, in a giving community. And I think that, what you're doing, Earl, and what you're doing, Scott, and everybody else here can see that we are headed that way in one of the oldest neighborhoods in the city, coming back, being revitalized. I'm not from here, but I see the potential. And where I'm from, if you don't pay, your kids don't play. And here, there's so many great opportunities for the parents, the residents, and the children. And I think that there's going to be more to come. So we need to focus on that too.
One of the things that Kanika said at another panel one day was that one of the things you liked about the new building is we'll be able to do more for the community. We actually don't advertise our services because we don't have the capacity to serve, people know about us, but there's plenty of people that we don't reach. The building will expand our capacity about 20%, and it's just so important that we be able to do that. And it's because we want to stand behind families, not in front of families. I just think that's so important. We're here to help families along the journey. We're not here to take over the family. We're not here to tell you what to do. We don't judge you. we support you on your next step of the journey, whatever that next step might be.
Let's talk about those next steps and looking ahead.
Yeah.
So what's the vision for the neighborhood in the next 5, 10, 15 years?
Oh my gosh. So let's plan a party right now, 10 years from today, 2031, is that right? May 5th, Cinco de Mayo, 2031. So I don't think it's even a vision. I think this is going to happen. This project clearly anchors a neighborhood investment effort. So as soon as the project was public, I started getting calls from people who wanted to be in our building or were interested in being the part of the neighborhood. So the next steps are attracting more businesses, helping homeowners and renters improve their property. We keep saying, literally the house across the street from me is a $3,000 house. I keep saying, I don't want it to be a $300,000 house, but I would love for it to be a $30,000 house. I'd love to see more home ownership because the financial crisis of the last year has decimated Black family wealth because so much wealth is in home ownership. I'd love to see increasing capitalization of the community. There is so much potential, but as I said from the very beginning, for me personally, it ain't my vision, it's the community's vision. So the next step is to make sure that we're embracing all parts of that vision into a coherent plan for the future.
Scott or Kanika, what are your thoughts on vision for the next 5 to 10
Yeah.
years?
Oh, man. Oh, I got a whole bunch of thoughts.
Yeah, that's part 2.
Well, you know what? I can say this. Like Earl said, people are definitely in need of some financial advising.
Yeah.
Building credit. Because, just let me be very clear. In my race itself, we think we all have it together and we can use a little bit of tutoring in establishing better credit, better money managing, solutions, and knowing that we can get that part together. We can own in Slavic Village. We can keep our yards clean. We can keep our neighborhood safe by getting together as a group instead of just being afraid to speak out. I want to own a home in Slavic Village. And I know who to go see. See, because I found out that which Cleveland Housing Network has an outstanding program there. And I want to stay in Slavic Village because I know what's going to happen within the next 5 years. So my thoughts within the next 5 years is if Slavic Village just keep on having these little festivals, keep on doing the, the beautification projects, just going in that direction, people are going to start taking notice. People are going to say, you know what, and then one thing too is they have the weatherization program, which will help homeowners that already have a house in Slavic Village, do repairs on their home. So people need to start hearing about that a little bit more. They need to just, try to tap into some of these resources because ultimately they're free, they're available. Earl wants everybody to experience them. I always say that he should do this great campaign where he should make all these t-shirts that say building strong families, building strong communities. Everybody in Slavic Village should be walking around wearing one of these t-shirts like he did for the voting campaign, which was really great, Earl. So I think I want a t-shirt still. But it's just, when people start seeing, their neighbors, going to these events and their neighbors getting involved, they're going to be following the leader. So all we got to do is just get one. If we can convert one, and we can convert one off one street, one off Lansing, one off of Fleet, one off of, and then you'll start seeing people follow behind the leader, So I think for the next 5 years coming up, just keep beautification going on, keep the little festivals and stuff that we have now that COVID is lifting up. Earl, keep walking the blocks, introducing yourself. Scott Ranelli, I would say that you meet with Earl one day and walk the blocks too, so you can see
He will.
exactly.
He has.
Yeah, because Earl be walking the blocks. And just everybody just take a part in doing some kind of community service here, cleaning up our neighborhoods, which has already been happening. I see it all the way over to 55th by Elizabeth Baptist Church. I mean, it's just so much great stuff going on. And then we have gardens we're doing at the school and at Elizabeth Baptist Church. We're doing pollination, introducing the children to new types of hobbies like beekeeping. And or if you want that beehive, we can do that too. Just something new to give to this community that we don't have, that other communities do. And it's coming back, it's starting to take form and take shape. So, I'm all about it. Whatever you guys doing, I want to be a part of it.
Scott, what do you think?
I can't say it much better than Kanika and Earl, but we want to be, we would love to see that continued development of the neighborhood from really taking families that are in the neighborhood today, providing them support, increasing home ownership, and increasing equity within the neighborhood for the residents of Slavic Village. That's really, if we could be successful there with the children, providing the support to their families, we'll be unstoppable in the neighborhood.
I'm very serious when I say this. One of the most constant refrains that we hear when we do outreach is, nobody cares about us around here. And they literally hear that phrase over and over again.
Yeah.
So part of my vision, like Kanika mentioned voting and Scott referenced it too, we put a lot of work into voting access and into the census. Why? Because however you vote is however you vote. But you matter. You matter, and your voice in this democracy matters. And so my vision for the future is that it's a community that's not just doing vibrant stuff, but when you ask individuals, they say, I matter. And the community is creating that vision and that image as well. So that to me is at the heart of all of it.
Kanika, it looks like you've got a little guest.
Oh, Kanika.
Well, I want to thank the three of you so much for sharing your passion and the amazing work and advocacy you are doing for Slavic Village, and encourage everyone on the call, please visit the neighborhood. It is such a gem in Cleveland, and we look forward to seeing that vision happen in the next 5 years. And with that, I'm going to welcome back Mary Ann.
Thanks so much, Rachel. And thank you for the three of you for demonstrating such a powerful collaboration that all of us could learn from. I think everybody on this call feels like Kanika. We want to be a part of everything that you're doing. And that question was posed in the chat. So we'll look to you to provide some answers that we can email out to folks, letting them know how they can get and be involved and help Broadway in its rising.